So here we go. Here is our node that is going to go with this system. So this is all the same kit that I'm pre-configuring to go out to a local farm. On our node, we've obviously got all the inside connections that we're going to deal with. So what I'm going to do is, for ease of use, I'm going to mount it onto the tripod pole first. So it comes with all the bag of bits. So there's the possible connectors we might need and our mounting attachment. So I'm going to do that first, and then we'll go through setting up the node with some sensors on it. Here's our node. A bit like the solar panels, any of the solar panels, when they are mounted and fully in operation, we need to make sure that they're facing south. So to configure the node again, we need to come back to our EnviroMonitor app. So there's the app that we've got open from earlier. So we obviously need to add the node to the app. So we've got the plus button at the bottom. Okay. And it's automatically saying we're adding a node because we've already added the weather station. So one thing to note that you can only actually have one weather station connected to an EnviroMonitor gateway. So what is it telling me to do? It's saying, right, first I need to insert the lithium battery. Well, that's the green one there. So we need to remove the tag out of that. We then need to add 4 D-cell batteries. And then we need to connect the solar panel charging light. So we'll move back over here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take out the tab on the lithium battery, and then the D-cell batteries go in the bottom here. So these act as a backup to the lithium battery. So we pop those in there, and again, all of this information, the charging capacity, or if any of them start to get low, then you'll get an automated message. So that's those in there. So you can see straight away we've started to get a flashing Bluetooth light. And I need to plug in the solar charge, which goes in that one there. And that's plugged in. So there is one additional little charger in there. And occasionally we do get asked for it. The nodes can actually be mains powered as well. You can see we've got a red radio light. So that is telling us the connection between this and the gateway. Well, at the moment we haven't obviously configured our node, so it doesn't know anything about it. So what we need to do is we'll come back over here, and we're going to go next, and then it says we need to Bluetooth again. So there we go with the Bluetooth connection. And again, as I said before, if it doesn't automatically find that Bluetooth network, we can just hit the question mark at the top, and it says Discover Devices. So there we go. It's found our device. And there we go. It's going to go through this whole section again, and it's going to ask if we need to do a firmware update. That will teach me. So checking firmware. Okay, so it doesn't need to do a firmware update. So I'm going to call this Node 1 for simplicity. And again, we go through the same system of where do we want to put the node. So obviously if you are on a large site and you're up to 3 kilometres away, you can pebble the nodes dotted around and you'd see them all on the map. So again, maintaining Bluetooth connection. And if we look on the EnviroMonitor gateway, it's the EnviroMonitor node, you can see we've got the solid Bluetooth to say that we had the connection, although it's now just rebooted, and then the flashing green. So this is now trying to establish the radio connection to the gateway for the mesh network. So it tells me that my node is installed, and I can go to that. So then the next thing that we're going to need to do is we're going to need to add sensors to our node. So for this particular customer, they've got 2 sensors being added to the node. We have a leaf wetness sensor and a soil moisture, soil temperature, Terros 12 sensor. So I'm going to add a sensor, and this is the really clever thing. So everything configuration-wise for a new sensor is done via the app. So what you have to decide is what type of sensor you want to add. So all the sensors are already pre-configured in the app that can be added. So, you know, you can get to depth level sensors, and all the different manufacturers and the types are there. So for our purposes this time, we're going to add a leaf wetness sensor. And we're going to add a Davis Instruments leaf wetness sensor, the 6420. And there we go, it tells you straight away that it's there. And that's the leaf sensor. We connect on that and then it tells you how to connect. So there's different ways. Some are connected via these little green connectors here with the bare wires, and they plug in into the sensor ports at the bottom. Others use the predefined RJ connector there, the RJ plug adapter. So for the leaf wetness, we're going to use the RJ adapter. So I'm going to go next, and then it says we need to have that Bluetooth connection again. I'm going to go connect, and it tells me which of the 4 ports to plug it into. Obviously at the moment we haven't got any ports populated, so it's going to go default to port number 1, but it's important that you follow where it's telling you. You can't just put them anywhere and expect it to work. It has to be in the right order. So again we go next, and it's doing that configuration again. There we go, going through, and it tells me that it's connected. And then I hit finished. So what I'll do is I'll get that port, that sensor plugged in there, and we can see that our light on here has gone to solid green. So that tells me that we have a solid connection to our gateway. Here is our leaf wetness sensor that we've just configured using the app. And as you recall, it told me that I needed to use my RJ connector. So we're just going to pop that in there. A satisfying click. And as we said, we need to go into port number 1. So one of the key things to do, and we might be able to get this on camera, if we can possibly bring this one over to get a close-up. Underneath here. So what we've got, and it's important that we align our sensor ports so we can see that we're nicely aligned. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 connections possible. We just need to make sure that we're in, and we give that a nice push. Okay, so we've added our leaf wetness sensor. Make sure that we're soundly connected there. I'm just going to leave it here, and then we've got one more sensor to add. What I'm going to do is I need to go back to my EnviroMonitor app again, and I'm going to select Add Sensor. And this time we have a soil moisture sensor to add. So again, we've got all our list of different soil moistures we can add, and what we've got is we've got a meter sensor, and we've got a Teros 12. And you can say what depth you're going to put it in at. I'm going to leave it at 10 centimetres. And this time it's telling me that I need to use the green block connector. 4 of those are supplied with the node. So it's telling me exactly what cable needs to go into which slot. So all that information is already provided for you. So that's been done. And then what I've got, and to coin a phrase and somebody else's catch line, here's one I made earlier. So I've already got my block connector made up to match what we've got on the wiring diagram. So again, I'm going to go next, Bluetooth connection into it, next, and again, it's then updating that sensor information. So that's done on the gateway, on the node, updated to the cloud, and then we'll find when we look at weatherlink.com, all these sensors are added there. So there are our 2 sensors that have been added. Obviously, if we want to add more, you can remove those sensors. One thing to note, that if you do remove a sensor, it will automatically delete that data. So make a backup of the data before you delete anything. So I'm going to plug this into port number 2. Again, really sensible to make sure that we get fully aligned on here. There we go. And that should plug straight in. And we'll just leave that sitting there. So we can then shut the door on that. So as I said, this is very much just sort of for configuration setup purposes. Normally what I'd do is I'd probably have the gateway in that position, and I'd drop the weather station lower down, the anemometer up the top. And if I'm going on one tripod, I'd then put the node onto one of the tripod legs as a very easy mounting option. Or we do the mounting poles So if you are wanting to put it separate to the weather station, you've obviously got that 300 metres line of sight to play with. So again, what we've got the EnviroMonitor app that we've just been using, and then we've got the WeatherLink app. So the WeatherLink app is the app that will be displaying the live data being updated every 15 minutes. So I'm going to tip on that, and then we're going to go and put our detail in that we had before. And there we go. And, as if by magic, our station is already there. So we can see that it's getting live data from it. Current temperature in here is 21.9. Our humidity feels like 19.4. So we can then click on that. And we'll have to be aware that some of this data is still just uploading because we've only just configured the system. So we can see that our last update was 13:30. So the next update will be 13:45. And that's when you'll get your next batch of live data, or it will be, the highest wind speed that we've had over the last 15 minutes, the median gust, all of that sort of stuff. So we can go through. We've got a little bit of a forecast there going forwards. It's got like a 6-day forecast, 5-6-day forecast. Current temperature information. We will get a temperature graph that will appear, but it needs, 12 hours a day or whatever it is, data to start with before it actually starts populating that, and then that will be continually live. Our rainfall data, luckily it's not raining inside today. Again, our wind data, no chart on there yet because obviously it hasn't had time to build one up. Same with the barometric. Our UV index is at 0, thank goodness today. ET data, obviously we're inside, we're not getting any solar on there. And then the other part is obviously we've got our extra sensors on here. So we've only just added them, so again they won't have built up any data yet, but this is where you will see all our extra sensor data. So we've got our leaf wetness, 0 to 15, and then we've got our meter sensor as well. So that will then start populating with the data from that sensor. And here you can get, as the app, you can go back and you can search records. Obviously we haven't built up any records yet, but that's kind of where we are as of today. And it goes without saying that if you want to add other stations to this that maybe you don't own, you can search for stations, search locations. So you can have other stations. If I go for where we are, we should then, there we go, we can see any other stations. So we can see there's one in there that we can add. That one, so you can have those on your list as well if you want to be interested in what other stations are doing in the area. So just a couple of things that I want to talk about quickly. Sometimes if you're on a 5-minute plan or you're on a 15-minute plan and you're in an area where you're not getting good solar charge throughout the year, so December, January can be quite bad. Certainly this year it's been another bad year for good solar charging. You do have the option to add a second solar panel. So it comes with all the connections. Cables feed up and then it feeds into the battery there. So you can actually get 2 feeds of solar into the battery. So anybody that's got one or thinks that they're in a low light area or, just wants to get a bit extra boost for it, we can sell you these and you can just add it, move them around on the tripod so they all mount on the same one. Not a problem, but that's definitely worth thinking about if you need one. So that was our installation guide, configuration guide, setup guide to how we configure 6803, 6810, 6327OV, Davis EnviroMonitor Gateway node and weather station. As I said, I normally do this in the office before we send out to a customer if we're doing pre-installation, or if I'm doing an on-site installation myself. I always make sure I do it in the office or in a controlled environment, just so I can make sure that everything's working properly as I want it to, rather than being out in the field. But as I said, this system is going to be installed on a local farm. So what we'll do next week, when we're actually doing the installation, is I'll take all the kit with me and I'll film the installation taking place as much as we can and show you it all up and working in that live environment. But any questions, feel free to give me a shout.